Who's got Jeremy Epstein? We've got Jeremy Epstein. And we're going to let you eavesdrop on our conversation with this blockchain marketing thought leader. We'll answer some questions, hit you up with the latest news, and maybe, likely, burst into song. Hey, what do you expect? We're bad. And so are you for listening to episode number 51 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
I like how you're always smiling when you're reading the teaser.
I'm happy. It makes me happy. It's so fun. This episode of the Bad Crypto Podcast brought to you by the Zilla app. Zilla is a new ICO marketplace app, kind of like a mix between Amazon and Reddit for ICOs. You can browse ICOs, upvote or downvote them, so the good ones, well, they rise to the top. If you like an ICO, you'll be able to participate using various tokens and credit cards with one click. Pre-register now for the limited Zilla beta app at zla.io/bad.
Nice. Nice.
And welcome to the Bad Crypto Podcast, the show for the crypto curious and the crypto serious and all the crypto types. Which type are you, Travis?
I'm crypto furious.
That was hilarious. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys listen to episode 50. That one. This is fiat.
Fiat currency.
We're going to have to use that one again. That guy could become a meme on Bad Crypto.
I was laughing so hard.
Oh, it was great. Well, here we are now on the backside of 50. I am legitimately on the backside of 50 because I'm 53 years old. And now we move and march forward towards episode 100, and glad that you guys are along for the ride. I'm Joel Comm, and alongside me is my partner in crypto, Mr. Travis Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Joel Comm. Yes, I have been in this technology space for a long time, and having written a book called Digital Sense, which is all about crypto. Not about crypto at all, actually. It's all about social business.
Wait, what did I write about?
What did I write about? Well, it could have been called Digital Sense, CENTS.
Yeah,
and talk about all crypto.
There's no sense. It would be digital Satoshis.
Yeah, digital Satoshis. Yeah, maybe so. But yeah, so it's a fun space to be in, and we're glad to be along for the ride, and we are glad that you guys are on board with us as we are growing and learning and teaching in this space. What a fun time.
The Bad Crypto Train, and be a citizen of Bad Cryptopia, the Republic of Bad Cryptopia. And you could do that by going to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Bad Crypto. There's also a link for the mastermind there, and check in on our Telegram group, which is hoppingbadco.in/Telegram. And Travis, I think we plowed through so many voicemails in the last episode that we just about emptied it out, but we do have questions that are coming in via our mailbag.
Let's get to them.
Bad Crypto Inbox. You got mail.
All right. Tristan writes via email. I just saw the breakdown of open ledger fees, and I think it would be wise to announce that you collect 60% of any transaction fees for those that sign up for Badcoin.
Yeah. Thank you, Tristan. So, we're learning all the time. We're bad. And a few months ago, when we set up Badcoin on the BitShares platform, we were told that we needed to sign up for a membership in order to create and issue an asset. And so we did that, and I think we paid some BitShares to make that happen. Well, now I went and dug a little deeper into this, and I found out that there is a fee allocation. When you guys sign up for BitShares using the link that we sent you, we actually get 80% of the transaction fees back. So when we send you Badcoin, it costs us 0.21 BitShares. So if BitShares, like right now, I think it's at 8 cents. So it costs us about a penny and a half to send you free Badcoin. Well, we end up getting back 1.3 cents of the 1.6 cents. that goes out. So it is, which is great because it's costing us to send you Badcoin, but not nearly as much as I thought.
Well, I actually send it from my own personal account, so I don't have the member one. So the one, whenever we're sending them out, but I'm able to send my transaction fee in Badcoin. So technically it costs nothing.
So there's that. But I also think, Travis, that we get a 80% of the transaction fee for anybody that transacts anything via the BitShares platform that has gone through our link. I'm pretty sure.
Is that happening? Are we getting like kickbacks or something?
Yeah. So what I do is I go to vesting balances, and it shows a vesting balance amount of BitShares, and it says vesting balances contain any fees earned through the referral program. They have a certain vesting period and are continually unlocked during that vesting period until all the available balances are there. And so it talks about coin days earned, coin days required, days left of vesting period. And like if I wanted to right now, I could claim 122 BitShares, which comes out to about $9.76.
Oh, my goodness. We are rich.
Yeah.
We are rich.
You know, what I like, we're all about full disclosure. We disclose when we have sponsored episodes. We let you guys know, who's sponsoring the show. We let you know if we're being compensated and that we don't make any recommendations. And I appreciate Tristan bringing that up so we could dig in.
I actually didn't even know that. So that's really cool.
You know what? There is so much we don't know, and
way more that we don't know than we actually do know.
We're learning along the way. Here's another question. This one was submitted by Peter via the contact link on our website, which you guys can go ahead and click there. And it's a great place to ask your questions, to provide feedback. If you're working with an ICO and you would be interested in discussing how you might sponsor a segment on an ICO Spotlight, or if you would like to have either Travis or myself or both of us appear at an event and either do Bad Crypto live from your stage or perhaps speak about blockchain related topics, you can do that via the contact form, just like Peter did. And Peter said, "Love your show. The last couple of weeks, I've been walking back and forth to work morning and afternoon via the Sydney Harbor Bridge."
Oh, I love that bridge. I've walked across that several times myself. I love it.
"Piling through all the Bad Crypto podcasts. I have about 6 to go." Well, we're going to keep pumping them out faster and you can listen, Peter. "Often I can't wipe the smile from my face with some of the show's antics. I have learned heaps basically from knowing nothing to actually having a bit of an idea of the whole blockchain space. I have a bad or impertinent question for you guys. What's in this for you? You warn of the pump and dump, dodgy ICOs, scams, and so forth, but I can't discern the actual reason you both do the podcasts. It can't be purely benevolent, can it? What's the game plan for the Bad Crypto podcast? Having asked the hard question, please keep the podcasts coming." Well, I think we kind of addressed it. I didn't realize the full question here before I read it all. But the first reason we do this is because we're having fun. Right, Travis?
We are laughing every time we're putting these together. Like, for example, we added 39 voicemails to that episode 50. And Joel and I, when we put that together, we were just sitting there just cracking up, laughing the whole time. So you'd think it would be a challenge or like a chore to put 39 voicemails and then answer some of them and then piece it all together. And you figure that would be kind of a monumental task, but it ended up being hilarious and super fun. It was actually one of the funnest times that I think that we've had putting together a show. So for one, we're having fun. 2, we just made $9 in BitShares. I mean, dude.
Wait a second. I gotta. Yeah, baby. Well, we do, in order to monetize the show, we do offer sponsorships, whether they're, core sponsorships like the Zilla app is our November sponsor, or whether they are sponsored segments for the ICO Spotlight, where we're being compensated either in fiat or a prime coin or tokens from the company or some version of that. But which is another reason that we don't want to bring crappy ICOs on the show. I mean, it's not fair to you guys. And if somebody's going to sponsor our show, we're hoping that they're going to have a successful project. It's not a bad question. I think we've been transparent with it all along. And the long-term game plan is nothing less than world domination.
We would both like to have statues made of ourselves eventually.
That will eventually be torn down because somebody finds us offensive.
Yeah, probably better ixnay on the statues, eh? And now the news.
This story makes me smile, Mr. Travis, right? It's on fintechnews.com, and it says that, well, before I give you the headline, let me read the entry to this. This is written by the CEO of the company that this is related to. And he says, quote, "Here's a quiz. Where might you think a huge, like 26 million, posse of potential new Bitcoin buyers could come from? Asia? Africa? Wrong. How about Fidelity Investments? Wow, you say, and wow, it is. The fifth largest asset management firm is all in on Bitcoin and has been. As we've pointed out previously, Abigail Johnson, who is Fidelity's CEO, is a staunch believer in Bitcoin and even runs a profitable Bitcoin mining operation. Bitcoins are even accepted in Fidelity's cafeteria. Fad? No way. Fidelity sees institutional money tiptoeing into the cryptocurrency sector. And, well, just take a moment to read this and learn what Abigail Johnson already knows. Bitcoin is here to stay." And it says Bill Taylor, CEO. So I'm not sure. Bill Taylor might be the CEO of fintechnews.com, and he wrote this piece, but it's coming off like a quote. Anyway, Fidelity could help 26 million new Bitcoin investors. I think that's pretty cool.
That is huge. And that's more people than there are actual Bitcoin. So not every one of those Bitcoin buyers will be able to get a full Bitcoin, right? And if they all come in and trying to buy a Bitcoin, well, then guess what happens to the price, Mr. Joel Com?
Zoom to the moon.
Yeah,
right?
Supply versus demand and the whole economic thing, right?
So that's good news, especially in light of the war that's going on between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, which, by the way, as of the recording today, taking a look at the crypto market cap, we've gone over 210 billion in total crypto market.
Wow.
Bitcoin Cash has slipped back to the number 2 slot in terms of market cap behind Ethereum, where it belongs. And Bitcoin's about 6,600, Bitcoin Cash about 1,300. There are those that believe the pump and dump on Bitcoin Cash has not ended yet, that it's going to pump again. Ethereum looking tight, Mr. Travis, right? $330, and Litecoin back over 60.
Yeah, it's sitting at around $63. There's a whole bunch of them that are looking good. Monero took off here this past week. Neo has actually had a nice little bump sitting around $30. There's some other interesting ones that we've been keeping an eye on as well. Stellar Lumens is up as well today, almost at 3.5 cents. So that's always interesting.
We did talk about Stellar and the IBM connection, right?
We did.
Yeah, so, I actually loaded up a little bit more on Stellar. I recommend you go do your own research. Don't do it just because I'm doing it, because I often lose money, but I love the IBM partnership for Stellar Lumens.
There was a really awesome Ask Me Anything of Michael Dowling, who's the group CTO of IBM blockchain. I believe that's his role. He's the group CTO and chief architect for the blockchain financial services at IBM. And he recently announced a universal payment solution developed by Stellar that they're working on. I will actually include a link to this in the show notes, because that to me was the thing that made me go, huh?
Oh. Tim the Toolman style. It's amazing how, something that happened in a popular show becomes part of our culture and vocabulary. I mean, how many years has home improvement been gone and we still
To me, that's Scooby-Doo, not
it is a lot Scooby.
It's actually them. I think it was a home improvement ripping off Scooby-Doo.
We're okay, Raggy.
Next up in the news, we have a really interesting piece here on CryptoCoinsNews.com talking about all of the blockchain projects that were developed in the last year on GitHub. And that repository, GitHub, has over 26,000 projects that were created in the last year. Yet, Joel, only 8% remain active.
Wow, that is a small number. Now, Of course, I'm guessing that a lot of the projects were just somebody playing around with a concept. Like, I'd like to know how many of these 26,000 blockchain projects on GitHub were anything more than somebody just dabbling with an idea, that actually was moving into turning it into a business of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that a lot of those were never intended to be anything more than somebody just dabbling, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, most likely. They say that a lot of the projects here have an average lifespan of 1.22 years, and 90% of them are becoming idle within the first 6 months. However, think about it like this. There's 26,000 blockchain related, projects on GitHub. And now we have over 1,000 cryptocurrencies. So, there are some that are getting to that finish line, 1 out of 26.
I would imagine, though, more often than not, it played out like this. Honey, it's time for dinner. Come up from the basement. Mom, I'm on GitHub. What are you doing down there? I'm building a blockchain project.
Come on, it's going to be the new Bitcoin, Mom. Get up here. We got our pork chops and green beans.
In other news, the Mt. Gox bankruptcy still is in the news. And I don't know how many times we've said Mt. Gox on the show. And I always say one day we're going to tell the story. We're going to gather around the campfire and roast marshmallows and talk about Mt. Gox. But it was one of the low points, Bitcoin. And this story is that Mark Capellas is going to end up with $859 million from the Mt. Gox bankruptcy. He was the CEO, right?
He was the guy that bought Mt. Gox from Jeb? Who's the dude? Jeb. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll just Jeb.
Jebd. And who is the CEO of Stellar, was also one of the founders of Ripple, right? And so he sold Mt. Gox to Mark. And then what happened was it got seized or it got hacked. There was some bankruptcy thing going on, and there was about 200,000 Bitcoins that were recovered after there was a loss of 1 million Bitcoins. 400 million during that point were, Mt. Gox filed bankruptcy. And so what they're saying is anybody who has a claim to those Bitcoins, they're going to get the value that their Bitcoins were worth in 2014. And anything above that value comes to Mark Capellas, the CEO of Mt. Gox. So he's going to end up getting almost $1 billion worth of value off of all these folks.
Wow. That's a lot of value right there. It is Jed, by the way. Apologies to Jed McCaleb for butchering your name, but that's kind of what we do. And Tim Duper, Draper, as long as we're butchering.
Tom Drooper.
Don Draper says this about Bitcoin. In 5 years, if you use fiat currency, they will laugh at you.
They're all going to laugh at you.
This is fiat currency. I'm a little crypto furious.
Oh, fiat. Tim says that you are laughable, my friend. And so Tim bought, check this, he bought 30,000 Bitcoin in 2014 for under 20 million. Today, it's worth about 215 million. Nice buy, Tim.
Well, it's not only that. He had another scenario before where he had X amount of Bitcoin, and I think it got Mt. Gox or something, and then he ended up coming back and saying, okay, well, screw you guys. I'm going to get some more. And then he bought 30,000 more. So pretty interesting. He actually bought them in a government auction from those assets seized from Silk Road. So worth under 20 million at the time. Now it's worth over 200 million. Who knows exactly what they're worth today, because at the time of this article was created about a week ago, Bitcoin was worth a little bit more. It's gone down a little bit. So around $200 million, not too shabby.
And by the time you listen to this, it might be back up again, or it might be down. It might go to zero, and it might go to $10 billion. Well, no, that's not going to happen. But
they're all going to laugh at you.
Yeah, anyway, hey, that's the news. We've got a great segment coming up for you next, our interview with Jeremy Epstein. So stick around, because here it comes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of Bad Cryptopia, we have a great guest with us today, and I have seen this guy speak a few times now on blockchain and blockchain marketing, and you are in for a treat today. We are with Jeremy Epstein. He is the CEO of Never Stop Marketing. As well, he was the VP of Marketing over at Sprinkler, which is a top social media platform as well. And he wrote a book called The CMO's Primer to the Blockchain. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big warm welcome to Jeremy.
Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for jumping on with us. Really appreciate that.
Let's start at the beginning, because this journey for Travis and myself is relatively new. I mean, this show started in July, and our conversations really began in spring of 2017. And, since going down the crypto rabbit hole, we find that it's really deep and expansive, and there's no bottom in sight. So why don't you share with our listeners your story of how you got sucked into this never-ending chasm of crypto deliciousness?
Yeah, it's so funny that you use that kind of visual, because I think your experience is similar with every single person in this industry. We all sort of start dabbling, and then at some point you kind of fall in, you take the red pill, and once you go crypto, you never go back. And there you go. Yes, I mean, I bought my first Bitcoin based on the recommendation from Fred Wilson's blog in like 2012. And like everyone who bought Bitcoin in 2012, I didn't buy enough of it, but oh well. I distinctly remember the feeling that I'm never going to see this money again, and my wife is going to kill me. So fortunately, neither of those happened. But I was involved in Sprinkler for a long time, from the time we were about 30 people and about 20 million valuation until about 1,400 people and a 1.8 billion valuation. And it was an amazing ride, and Sprinkler is a phenomenal company. My preference, though, is I like the early part, the landing on the beaches part, as opposed to the going across France into Germany part, if you will. I was a history major. So as I was sort of looking for that next sort of thing, my passions has always been, how do you take powerful, transformative, for the better technologies from sort of the edge cases to the mainstream? And as a marketer, that's kind of what I've been trying to spend most of my my craft developing over the last 20 some years. And so I was looking around, and I was like, okay, I have this Bitcoin stuff. What the hell is this thing? Right? So I just started like reading. And just like what happened to you, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, like this thing is like a tsunami 50 miles off the coast, and nobody knows it's coming. Right? And I was like, wow. And then once you start to kind of get your head around it, which lasts for like a minute, and then you realize you know nothing, you started like getting super excited. And then I started to look around, and I said, wow, the engineering talent in this space is mind-blowing. These guys are so good. It's unbelievable. And I looked around further, and I was like, well, wait a second. Like, even if I'm like a below average marketer, on my worst day, I think I can help these guys because like they're engineers. And so, I talked to a few people, and I have the privilege maybe once every 2 to 3 years of having coffee with Fred Wilson. And I was like, Fred, I'm thinking about maybe helping out some of these blockchain startups as kind of a virtual CMO or a marketing advisor. And he looks at me and goes, Jeremy, every single one of these companies needs your help. And I was like, that's all the market validation I need. So there you go. So I sort of basically hung out the shingle. I've been very fortunate to work with some really top tier projects like Open Bazaar, like Zcash, like Storage, D Corp, and a whole bunch of others. And just really awesome to be right there in the epicenter, if you will, of decentralization, ironically, with some of these startups and just trying to help them, because it's such an amazing paradigm. And I think for me, it's mostly about my mission is to bring that decentralized future that I think everybody who goes down this whole kind of sees as ultimately a good possibility and a good outcome, bring it to the present as quickly as possible, because you guys and we're all big fans of technology, but I think we also deeply understand the challenges and the dangers of having too much centralization. And that's a concern for me. And I want my kids to live in a world where there's decentralization. And so I'm just trying to help do what I can to push that objective forward. So that's kind of the story. So that's basically where I work, spend about 80% of my time working with the startups in the space. And then about 20% of my time going, speaking to some of the enterprises and some of the other audiences, just saying, hey, I've been hanging out with the barbarians on the periphery of the empire. Let me tell you what their game plan is. Like, I speak enough Klingon that I can explain it to you in English. So that's kind of where I fit in.
Very nice. So I've said, as I said, I've seen you speak a couple of times. I saw you speak at Martech in San Francisco back in May, and then also here in Boston. And then I did the opening keynote on day 2 at the Martech conference, and I asked the audience how many of them had some cryptocurrency. The whole group, there's like 1,500 people there, 1,200 people, whatever. And about 10, maybe 12 people raised their hands, right? In a room full of marketing technologists, right? And then I say, so how many of them have any, Litecoin or Ethereum? And then like maybe 8. Like how many here have coins aside from those? And then like 2, right? Which blew me away. I'm like, wow, I'm in a room full of marketing technologists and only 2 people have anything other than Litecoin, Bitcoin, or Ethereum. Wow. I want to touch real quick on the metaphor that you use at the beginning of your presentation, because most of our audience here listens. They're mostly noobs as well. And we're trying to help these masses get to that next level so they can adopt and start using crypto. We've helped a ton of people get into the space. So what that metaphor of the signet ring, right? And how that was used back in the day for trust and for third-party verification. And if you could maybe share that with our audience, because I think it's a pretty valuable metaphor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so basically, once upon a time, going all the way back to ancient Egypt, the way that people authorized transaction was with the signet ring. And I'm sure people have seen them in TV or movies where these custom engraved rings that you would imprint the seal in wax or whatever. And that would indicate to whoever was party to the transaction that you, the individual owner of that signet ring, had kind of verified that transaction. And, obviously losing that ring was a problem because people could forge a signature, but that was basically the idea. The challenge, of course, and it was used for a long time, well into the Middle Ages, because a lot of people couldn't write and read or what have you. But the challenge, as we would say, is, signet rings don't really scale very well because you can't remember everybody's signet ring up to 10,000 or a million people. So that's why we had to, not that's why, but one of the things that sort of allowed us to scale our economies was the creation of these centralized institutions that basically serve as trust brokers between parties who wouldn't normally trust or engage with each other. But what's so powerful about crypto is it basically brings that concept of the signet ring back, where each of us have our own private key that we own, that can't be duplicated, that we control, and it indicates to everybody that the owner of that private key, the owner of that digital signet ring, if you will, is the one who authorized that transaction. So it allows you for that same sense of individual confirmation of a transaction, but to do it at global scale without having to remember, what does everybody ring, look like? Because, of course, yours would be like some sort of Kansas City chief royal motif kind of deal.
Mine would look like
my room would look just like this.
Yeah, yours would look just like that. Exactly. And I don't know what mine would look like, but I work. So that's basically the idea, is now we can kind of devolve that trust, decentralize that trust mechanism back to the individual, because now we're in control of our own kind of signing authority. Whereas if we give that to the bank, for example, I tell people, you don't actually own the money in your bank account. The bank owns the money, because they could shut you down. They can turn off your ATM access. They can shut down your access, your login from the website, and you can't access your money. So you don't actually control it. In Bitcoin or any of the other cryptos, assuming you're not using a centralized hosting sort of scenario, you control it all the time. And, I remember one guy a couple weeks ago when the whole Equifax thing went down, and he's like, I'm worried about my social security number. I'm worried about my driver's license. I'm worried about my credit card, but I'm not worried about my Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah, actually somebody had used something from Equifax, my social security number, that whole leak, and then contacted T-Mobile and got them to switch my SIM card over to their device, and then was resetting other passwords, trying to get into my Coinbase account. to hack my crypto, but I have all that locked down. Did not have T-Mobile locked down well enough, I guess.
Wow, that's scary, man. Wow, goodness.
Yeah, we covered it. There's 2 episodes kind of back to back where we talk about what happened and then the resolution. And of course, Travis wins because Travis always wins because he is King Daddy Crypto. So blockchain makes all kinds of promises for what it can do. We're seeing, there's over 1,200 currencies now in CoinMarketCap. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands more that aren't listed there that have different solutions that they intend to create tokens that are going to solve a problem for their customer in whatever space it is. So, when you look at blockchain and you understand that no matter what we come up with as solutions, if customers don't actually use it, it doesn't matter. Where do you see blockchain making the biggest impact for customer experience and beyond that to marketing in general?
Phenomenal questions. I mean, I think we have to think about the multiple phases, but the first thing is we have to keep in mind, I told someone today that I think like what's so interesting about crypto right now is it's the early days of web 1993, 1994 combined with the craziness of 1999 IPO kind of era all wrapped up into one. So, the commercial internet took 20 years. In the first couple of years, people were like, what is this thing? How are we going to use it? And I think we're sort of in that place right now. For me, I think that the key message for most people to understand is it's not so much how blockchain works. That's really cool. And it's not so much what are the steps that are going to happen in order for it to be mainstream adoption. To me, this thing looks inevitable. And I think the thing you have to kind of understand is, okay, if this is really a wave, what does it crash into? Well, if you're a third-party intermediary that's serving as a trust broker between other people, that's where you need to be concerned. So I think that's the first thing you have to kind of take away from what's blockchain. Now, to your point of like, okay, how does this thing kind of roll out? That's where we sort of say, all right, what are the steps? Well, the first step is we're laying down the infrastructure. And that's really with, what Ethereum's all about, what a lot of these other projects are about. Some people would argue that Bitcoin as the trust layer of the internet is about that. So these are all sort of the infrastructure. Then you're sort of going to that next layer, things of like blockchain interoperability, because we're sort of past that point where there's one blockchain to room all. So that's where like Polkadot and Cosmos and Icon and all these guys who are trying to allow for these sort of atomic swaps of value between various blockchains occurring. So this is very low level in the grand scheme of things, stuff of the sort of crypto stack, if you will. But ultimately, I think where you're going to start seeing it is things like people aren't just like today, like you don't even think about the fact that you're actually using the internet when you're engaging with Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. That's what's going to happen with blockchain technology. So, Kik's already doing this with their KIN token. YouNow is doing this with their props token. So you're going to start seeing, I call them reverse ICOs. You're going to start seeing existing centralized platform companies basically invert their model to become decentralized token based and sort of take the value that they're normally sort of aggregating in the middle and basically redistributing it back out to the people who are creating the value for the content. So I think that's the earliest kind of one of the earliest use cases where the people you'll see in industries, I think sharing economy industries of companies that are sort of in like call it spots 3 through 7. I don't know anyone at Kik who said this, whatever, although I heard someone say that it was kind of verified. Basically, they kind of came to the realization we're not going to beat Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp playing the same game as they are. So we have to beat them another way. And the way we're going to do that is we're basically going to create a crypto token called a KIN. And if you create value on our network, you're going to get a KIN, which then can be exchanged for Bitcoin or Ether or dollars or whatever you want. And that's how we're going to compete, given the fact that we have all these people who are already registered. So I think you'll start seeing that. The financial services is an obvious one. I think supply chain is really kind of sitting there. And then within the place that I look, I call it, you guys may have seen the blockchain marketing technology landscape that I put out. Like, I think the advertising ecosystem is really interesting because that thing is just chock full of intermediaries. And it's just like begging for sort of a distributed ledger technology kind of disruption. It might take a while, but I think you're going to start seeing enterprising like SSPs, DMPs, and all those guys start to say, okay, how do we kind of get a leg up on everybody else and maybe do what Kik and YouNow and these guys are doing over here within our space? So I think you'll start seeing that. But for the end user, for the most part, aside from sort of having this points that once upon a time were not really valuable to now coming into some sort of tokens, which actually do have value, like real value outside of the platform that they're in. I think most people shouldn't even know that they're using this stuff. It doesn't matter. But I think they're actually going to have a better user experience. And I know you guys are big on customer experience, as you should be. They're going to have a better experience because they're actually going to recognize the value that they're creating and get compensated for that, which actually just feels more fair for everybody. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, Facebook and Google and all these companies, they've gotten very wealthy off of the user data. And, that money did not trickle down to any of the users. And now we're seeing that the users are being compensated. I mean, imagine every time you bought an Apple computer or an iPhone or something, you were able to get some Apple token that over time it increased, and for being a valuable customer of them, you were rewarded in some way. But instead, that doesn't necessarily happen unless you are a stockholder. And that is one of the questions that we had, because there's around the marketing technology blockchain landscape that you had put together. It seems like there's a whole bunch of those advertising platforms that are surfacing around blockchain. And I wanted to ask you, maybe, how are you navigating that? How can you tell which one of those are surfacing as some of the better solutions that we might want to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, but I wouldn't even say it's $1 billion question. It might be a multi-billion dollar question. I wish anyone who tells you they've totally figured this industry out, in my opinion, doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right.
But I definitely have not. I saw a really cool graphic the other day that was like a bell curve, and it was like, I don't know anything about blockchain. I don't know about anything about blockchain. At the top, you're like, oh, I figured it out. They're like, I don't know anything about blockchain. So I was like, yep. It's like, and every time I think, I'm like, nope, I don't understand. I'm just confused. And I do this all day, every day for like the last year and a half. So, I look at, there's a framework that I use right now. It's very immature, and we're sort of, I'm working with some folks to kind of build out the model to look at sort of what the data, but like using anything from sort of a centralized to sort of superimpose on a decentralized, to me feels like maybe, but it's like you want to start from what are the things that a decentralized sort of project's going to need. So I call it the 3TC model, right? So T number one is team, right? That's eternal. When you look at a startup, you want to know who is the team at the core of this thing is going to drive it. Are these serious people? Do they have a track record? Do they know what the hell they're talking about? That kind of thing. Number one. Number two is the technology. There's a lot of really cool stuff that blockchain can't do. It can't make coffee just yet. You can track the supply chain of coffee, but can't actually make coffee. So you want to make sure that the technology is actually like, yeah, that could actually work. Like there's a lot of stuff that's far-fetched, but you're like, could this work? Or is this like, no, this is just like, this is not a blockchain or a distributed. I'm moving toward distributed ledger technology to kind of answer, to start thinking about that. So, does the technology actually do, or can it do what it's supposed to do? Number two. Number three, the token. Now, the study of token economics is going to be a field. You're going to have like crypto economics classes in college and an MBA school and business, whatever, all that, because understanding like the money supply, the fiscal policy, the incentives, all of these things that have to be baked in to the token, basically at the genesis block, have to be considered. So you need to know, like we had a conversation before about a few different cryptocurrencies and like, what's their supply? What's their price? Like these are all things you actually know at the outset, and that will inform whether you want to invest, whether you want to build on it, what have you. And then number four is the C, which is community. Right. And I think what's super critical in this era, especially early, is how much developer attention are each of these projects getting? Because they almost all of them require some sort of like, in order to drive the user adoption that you were asking about before, you're going to need developers to build applications on top of it, to go out and evangelize it and do increasingly niche kind of services. But if people aren't actually building on top of it, then you're probably going to start running into like a friction or a slow adoption issue. I was talking to a guy a few weeks ago, and he was comparing sort of two of the projects in the decentralized storage space. I won't name them, but on Project A, he's like, I know a bunch of people building apps on this. I don't know anyone building apps on that. Now, granted, that's one person's perspective, but that's a good indication of like, these guys might have something going. You look at their Slack channel, although now more and more people are using Telegram, those kind of things, to kind of see where is their excitement and why is the excitement there? So that's kind of how I look at it and sort of take it from there.
Well, Jeremy, we appreciate your time. I got one last question that goes along the lines of marketing in particular. All these ICOs are popping up. Basically, they're trying to use blockchain to find a way to raise funds through the token for their business. And some of them succeed wildly. Some of them crash and burn. In fact, I was just looking at one that, they need a soft cap of $1 million and they're more than halfway through and they've raised about $250,000. And it tells me probably not going to happen. So this is actually should be instructive to those that are involved in ICOs. What are some of the marketing strategies that you're seeing that are effective in launching these ICOs?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I think one, it comes back to the 3TC thing. Like you need to demonstrate on your website, in your white paper, that you really have addressed these things. Number one. Number two, people are still people and they follow social cues and social proof from others. Like who are your advisors? Who's investing in you? And honestly, these days, a lot of it just comes down to the pre-sale. Like, can you get that sort of significant ball rolling and investor excitement? Sure, there's a lot of marketing fluff, and it's the stuff that I don't like because it's just a lot of BS out there. There's a ton of noise, and there's some scammers out there. I've been scammed, so I personally understand it. I think it's healthy to kind of set very big goals for yourself, but you also need to have in your mind, okay, what do we realistically need to play the long game? Because the ICO is not the end. It's basically a promise to the community that you're going to deliver something of significant value down the road. And so you want to say to yourself, okay, what do I need to get to that next milestone so that I can then demonstrate to the community or to the world, essentially, or people who care, we actually deliver. So this project that is going to maybe run, only raise $250,000, that's a seed round. That's an angel investment, right? So, okay, if you can go for 6 months and crank out something awesome and you demonstrate that, okay, you're probably going to get additional life. So it's not a defeat. You may not have a touchdown on the opening drive, or the kickoff, if you will, but at least you get some momentum and then you get a chance to prove yourself. Because the key thing, right now it's crazy, although I feel like most people feel like we're sort of in this ICO winter right now. But I think you have to think okay, in 3, 6, 12 months, a lot of these tokens are going to be gone. And for those who just deliver, you're going to get second and third and fourth chances to really pick up momentum and see the value of your tokens increase. If you believe in what you're doing, hang in there, and you just need enough money to kind of keep on going until you hit that milestone. That would be my advice. Go hard, never stop marketing, but also be realistic that you're not just playing a 1-inning baseball game. You're playing a long one, a 9-inning, maybe extra innings.
Maybe extra innings. Yeah, you never know. So what are some of, we'll wrap this up here with a final question here. So what are some of your favorite resources on blockchain, or some of the places that you go to gain wisdom and knowledge? What are your go-tos?
Yeah, I'll send you a link. I put together a blockchain 101 link with all the books, podcasts, and what have you that I go to. I think Phil Gomes's piece on ICOs and token design was probably one of the best I've ever read. Let's see. I love reading Daniel Jeffries' stuff. He's a really big thinker on decentralization. I think William Mugayar's always got good stuff. Fred Wilson obviously has always got good stuff. The Bad Crypto Podcast. Everyone should definitely listen to that multiple times.
Ding, 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 ding.
That was the correct answer.
That was the correct answer.
Win. You won. You just won.
And, I'd say, Nick Tomino's really good. Chris Berniski, no one thinks about crypto asset valuation better than he does, in my opinion. And, there's a bunch of others, but I'll send you the link if you guys want to put in the show notes.
We'll throw in the show notes for sure.
But those are the couple that off the top of my head. But the reason I put it on my blog is because I'm getting old. I don't remember stuff as much anymore.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for jumping on the Bad Crypto Podcast with us. We really appreciate you doing that. And where are some places where people can connect with you online?
Yeah, so best is neverstopmarketing.com, all one word. And there's a blog about crypto marketing pretty much 5 days a week. And that's probably the best place. I'm also on Twitter, JER979. But I'd say start at the website, subscribe to the blog, and hopefully it's a good value-added resource for you, and then we can take it from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeremy. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Mr. Travis Wright, that was good interview right there with Jeremy Epstein.
It's very nice, very nice. Really smart dude. Really like Jeremy. He's a sharp cat. He's out there doing some really cool stuff with some really cool companies, and he's got his marketing chops down. And we're glad to have him on the show.
And we're still reaching out to some of the other big names in crypto to hope to have them on the show in the future. Laura Shin, we know you're out there. We know that you know that we know that you know. Please come to the show. And we've reached out to Vitalik Buterin or Buterin or whatever his name is.
And he laughed at us and said, well, like whatever. Sure, you guys.
Charlie Lee has said yes, but we have not been able to connect to schedule yet. So Charlie, love to have you on the show soon. Lots of great content coming your way. We promise to continue to deliver, over-deliver, and then deliver some more. Because
over-promise and under-deliver every episode, you guys.
Because we're bad. It's the Bad Crypto Podcast. And please share the show. If you're having a good time, this is all word of mouth stuff. We have so many people that are telling us they're telling their friends, they're getting their family involved, they're getting their kids to listen. Feel free on various message boards and in telegrams to, don't spam them. But if it's contextually relevant to the conversation that's taking place, hey, I heard these guys on the Bad Crypto Podcast. You guys should go check it out. And of course, review us. We're up to 241 reviews. It's a 5-star rating on iTunes, and we've got a great rating on Facebook and all the places. Please rate us. Take a screenshot of your review and email it to us at badcryptopodcast@gmail.com along with your BitShares ID. And what kind of magic will happen in their lives, Travis?
They will get magical bad coin sent to them in loving ways.
Are you going to deliver it to their doorstep with a singing telegram?
No, I'm just going to put it into a heart bubble and send it to them.
Aww, that's so cute.
And I do want to mention this though. If you guys do refer your friend to the show, or 5 friends or 10 friends, or your a whole army battalion of your friends, you would want them to start at badco.in/001, because our first 10, 15 episodes, Joel, they're very serial in nature, not serious, but serial, because we're kind of laying the foundations of what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, how does it work, how does this fintech space all fit together, what does it mean, and what does it mean for the folks who are looking to invest in cryptocurrency. So we kind of lay the foundations down those first 10 to 15 episodes or so. But basically, if you listen to the first one, maybe the first 2 episodes, that'll give them a good idea of what's going down with this crypto show, and kind of give them a general idea of what to expect.
It's a plan. So you have your marching orders, ladies and gentlemen of Bad Cryptopia. Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.